Well, hello, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Quality Hub, chatting with ISO experts. I'm your host, Xavier Francis, and today I'm here with Brenden Lowery, consultant here at Core. Glad you could join us again, Brenden.
Thanks for having me, X. Excited to be here.
And we're really glad that you're here. Well, today's podcast is going to be all about data-driven decision-making in ISO 9001. But before we get into that, let's learn a little bit about Brenden, and I also have a question for him. What is your favorite burner on your stove?
My favorite burner?
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for this. I would say the large burner. I have a gas stovetop, and I prefer the large burner because the small burner doesn't heat up my pots quick enough.
Ah, okay. Well, see, there's certain things in adulting that we all have that are favorites.
Yeah.
That we don't talk about, like your burner, your favorite pot and pan. For me, I have I need to be able to use this spatula when I'm cooking this thing, So there's all these things as adults we have that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
Well, let's learn a little bit about you. I know that you've been in quality for a while. You've had a couple roles. Go ahead and share a little bit about your history, if you would.
Yeah, 13 years experience in quality management systems now across several different industries. I was a management representative for an ISO 9001 company for several years, but also was involved in some other quality management system standards. I was a quality engineer for an automotive supplier that makes the tailgate cables on Ford trucks.
Okay.
And was also a supplier quality engineer for an aerospace company and would go around and audit their suppliers. So experience across a few different industries. I've been with Core Business Solutions for about 4 years now. I think my 4-year anniversary is coming up here very soon. And I'm a member of the consulting and auditing team here.
Well, that's awesome. I know we've had you on the podcast before. Great amount of history. And again, really appreciate you taking the time today. Let's get started. So could you explain what data-driven decision-making means within the context of ISO 9001? And why is it emphasized in Clause 9.1?
Yeah, so first I'd just like to refresh anyone on what the standard actually says. So in section 9.1.3 of the ISO standard, it states that the organization shall analyze and evaluate appropriate data and information arising from monitoring and measurement. It goes on to state that the results of analysis shall be used to evaluate things such as product and service conformity, customer satisfaction, vendors, and just the overall effectiveness of the quality management system.
Okay.
So how, can we measure if the QMS is effective unless we quantify it in some way? It can't just be a feel thing.
Good point.
There's a quote from W. Edwards Deming that I like to use a lot when speaking to people, and that is, "In God we trust, all others bring data." Many people may think something is going well because they're making money or things may look productive, but looking at it from an analytical or data perspective, may reveal a different story.
Yeah. How else can you really determine the reality of your business without looking at data? It's really difficult. You've got to take that and look at what's real.
Yeah.
Now, Brenden, how can small to medium-sized businesses start using data effectively if they have a limited number of resources or technical experience?
Yeah, it's 2025. I like to think that there is certainly some tools, free tools or basic tools available to most businesses.
Okay.
So many businesses are using some sort of a ERP or enterprise resource planning system, right?
Okay.
A means of keeping track of their inventory and how they make the parts that they then turn around and sell. Frequently, ERP systems will have a means of you entering in a customer's requested delivery date.
Right.
And then, of course, the date you ship the order. And so you're able to calculate your on-time delivery percentage, for instance.
Right.
So a lot of these systems do that type of thing. But for businesses that might not be using those, spreadsheet software is out there for everyone.
Yeah.
Google Sheets, there's many opportunities. The thing that I would stress to people is to understand that the data that they're collecting or the way that they're going to collect their data needs to be a small amount of time. We don't want people spending 8 hours a week just doing data collection, right? So choose a couple things that they want to measure and come up with the simplest or easiest way to chart that stuff.
Okay. So again, get started. small, and then as you progress and get familiar with how to do it, also maybe what you're looking at, start looking at more stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you mentioned there's some things out there when it comes to software and ERP and things like that, even a basic spreadsheet. I know we have some things that we can look at. If you're a core customer, we can use in core with dealing with getting information about customers and their satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some types of data? You mentioned on-time delivery. I mentioned customer satisfaction. But what is the data that is most critical in supporting ISO 9001 compliant and continual improvement?
Well, the basics for many organizations are things such as on-time delivery, non-conforming material or scrap, defects, supplier on-time delivery, rejections, etc. Those are where I would suggest starting. But one that I think organizations may not spend enough time thinking about is things like inventory turns. So, how long from when you produce a part does it ship? How long does it sit in your warehouse? That sort of thing. Also realize that the detail on what you're measuring is very critical.
Okay.
You could just choose to track defects, or you could choose to track defects in a certain department or cell in your facility on second shift by operator Brenden, right?
Right.
You see, you can really zero in and be very specific, and that would allow you to see some potential trends.
You can get as granular as you need to, or as bird's eye view as you want. Now, a lot of what you mentioned was for manufacturing. What do you look at from a service perspective?
Yeah, so from a service perspective, we're looking for things such as like acceptance of deliverables. So you want to make sure that the services that you're providing are accepted by your customer. Maybe your first time through, like a first time pass. Or how quickly you're able to respond to them. I have seen some organizations do that as well. They want to make sure that they're providing excellent service to the customer quickly or with speed.
Okay. Sounds good. So what are some common pitfalls that organizations face when they're trying to make decisions based on data?
So I would say my biggest one would be that they're not making decisions based on data.
They're not really doing it, eh?
No. I'll say sometimes with leadership and organizations, they may enter a conversation and they have particular idea of what they think the problem is or the direction that they want to go, and they just want to do that. Right. Now I'll go back to the Deming quote I mentioned earlier, in God we trust, all others bring data. Listen to that information. You want to ensure that you have evidence to kind of back up the decision that you're making. And sometimes the data and what it's telling you might not be what you agree with, right? But I think it's important to give that information a chance, right? If it results in a large improvement to the company, wouldn't you rather have that than be right? You need to separate your emotions from the process. And it's important, I should say, last thing, make sure the data that you're leveraging is accurate. Otherwise, you could just be kind of picking and choosing information to fit your narrative. And you don't want to be doing that when you're talking about making decisions about the direction of a company.
Yeah. I know it's easy when one has a lot of experience to look at something and even look at a little bit of data, like a problem, and you're like, oh, I know what's causing that. And then it's not really what's causing it. I know, like, from my perspective in working with audio and video, I'll see things, I'm like, oh, that's a bad cable, or, that's something going bad, or this glitch. When I get in and analyze it and look at data, it's like, oh, that's not what it was. Well, that kind of surprised me. And I think it's easy to do that, especially with people that have a lot of experience in business or a lot of experience looking at data, kind of interpreting it without really looking at all the details and really almost looking at it fresh each time. That makes a lot of sense, and that probably could be why a lot of people have problems with that. You're making sure it's accurate.
Well, many organizations, I'll tell you, are led by personnel with type A personality, right? And the type of people that they see a problem and they want to address it. And that is great. That is a great attitude they have. But it's also important to, hey, is this really being caused by X, or is it being caused by Y? And I didn't even think about that. So
exactly. And then making sure it's correct, whatever you're looking at.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with conflicting data or inconclusive results when you're trying to take corrective action?
I'm trying to say you try not to do that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
If you have information that is inconclusive and not really giving you a clear picture, the first thing I always say is we'll look at more examples, right?
Okay.
So let's say you're taking, a data set of 30 points and nothing is really sticking out. Well, maybe you need to go to 60 or 90, right? That sort of idea. Inconclusive data can most often come from too small a data set. So there is an interesting principle out there. Many may have heard of it, called the Pareto principle. It's also known as the 80-20 rule.
Okay.
And it suggests that approximately 80% of results stem from 20% of causes. So in other words, a small percentage of inputs often yields a large percentage of outputs. And this principle exists in many places in the world.
Okay.
20% of a plant contains 80% of the fruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
20% of a company's products may represent most of their revenue, right?
Right.
You don't want to become too eagle-eyed. You're right. You don't need an exact 80-20 relationship. But the idea is that oftentimes one or a few things are ultimately the cause of your problem. And so if you're looking at a data set and there's not 80-20 relationship there, look at more examples. And if you still do that and see nothing, then maybe there is truly nothing there and you need to look at it differently.
Now, does that mean that let's say you have, well, let's do hard numbers here, 100 employees doing something and you want to look and see data, do it at least 20%? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I would think of it in terms of say you have a work cell, and let's say there's maybe 5 machines in that cell, and you're seeing a lot of defects. What you may find is that most of those defects are coming from one machine.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Or most of those defects are coming from one shift, or not to single anyone out, maybe it's a specific operator.
Okay.
And you might investigate and realize that, this operator just wasn't trained properly on how to do this step. And once we have some retraining done, we've seen, a dramatic decrease in the number of defects.
Gotcha.
So it's just the idea that most of the time, most of your problem is coming from one area.
Okay. Gotcha. So you don't necessarily use the 80-20 when you're looking at it specifically. Just know it's probably going to be from something that's relatively a small percentage.
Correct. Yes.
Gotcha. Now, you were mentioning, hey, maybe this one person wasn't trained right. So obviously, if employees are being looked at to collect data, that can get a little bit like, ooh, what are they looking for? What am I doing wrong? How do you encourage those frontline employees to participate in data collection and to use it to make improvements without them feeling like you're focusing on them and what they might be doing wrong?
Yeah, I know it's almost like a difficult tightrope walk, right? You don't want to make people feel like they're being watched, right? Because there is a comment I hear a lot in quality: what you want to improve, measure it.
Gotcha.
The idea is that if you're going to tell your team, I need perfect quality, and you're going to measure the number of times a part comes through without defects the first pass, people will probably respond quite well in doing that. Now, they might only make 6 parts in a day, Xavier, right?
Right.
But the idea is they're going to try to tailor their behavior to what you're measuring, right?
Gotcha.
So that's a slippery slope. Kind of want to keep that anonymous from them, just let them do their thing.
Yeah.
You should have a culture when it comes to quality, and that is that we're not out here trying to report or tattle on other employees. We're just trying to make the company better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And empowering them, right? So you're going to have some employees that are responsible for collecting and helping to interpret the data from your facility. And something I wish more companies would understand, it really does make your people feel important, right? Allowing them to, hey, look, this is our scrap report from last week. Do we notice any interesting trends?
Right.
And letting people give you that feedback. It is such a simple thing, but employees really feel like they're contributing to the company.
Yeah.
Letting them make some suggestions. Hey, look, it looks like we have a piece of equipment that is causing us an issue. And you as a member of management says, maybe we should consider replacing that. That's a really great interaction, whether you realize it or not. So it's something that I try to encourage people: involve your lower level employees or your frontline employees with the work that you're doing.
It gets you that buy-in. It really does. And really help them understand we're not looking for individuals making mistakes or problems, but we're looking at how can we better do processes, making sure everybody does know how everything should be done. Not that if you're doing it wrong that we're mad at you, but maybe you needed some more training, or maybe you got hired at a really quick time and you were in one other person instead of the 5 people we needed. And yeah, maybe some of your training kind of got brushed over a little bit.
Right.
And you're just not familiar with it. Or maybe you are aware of, well, that thing doesn't work right. I'm just going to deal with it. And if you are open enough and say, a lot of our problems come from that machine over there, or at least be able to point you to the direction where the problem is if you don't know.
Yeah. And I feel like I should circle back and clarify something. So when I say that we wouldn't want our employees that are working on these pieces of equipment or being measured to know that, just the reason why I say that is we want to measure how things are actually going, right?
Mm-hmm.
We both know that we may behave differently if we know that our production totals are being watched this week, right? We're going to try again to fit that measurement. Oh, I better try to churn out as many parts as I can. So the idea there is just to measure how the state is currently and not to try to influence or have bias there.
Right. You get them more involved after you know that you see that there's something that can get better.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And then involve them in the actual continual improvement process.
Right.
Not necessarily when you're looking for data.
Right.
I understand what you mean. All right. So I just touched on it, but how can organizations use data not just to meet the ISO 9001 requirements, but to gain strategic advantage and continual improvement?
There are so many ways we could go with this. I mean, there are really endless possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Couple things that I think are important. Look, technology is a fantastic thing. Now we have the ability to see some things that we never were able to before. So, for instance, if you are a company that sends out quotes to your customers, there is software available which allows you to see how long your customers look at the quotes.
Okay.
And what areas of the quote are their cursors on the most, right?
Right.
So if there's somebody that's hanging out a lot on the price page, right? Maybe price is super important to them. I mean, who isn't price important to?
Yeah.
Or if they're hanging out more on your deliverables, what you say you're going to do, right? They may be more worried about, are they going to do all of these things in this list? That kind of thing.
Right.
That's a really interesting thing that I think companies, if they aren't looking at, they should think about that.
Mm-hmm.
You can tailor your quote or your website to the things that you're seeing from those interactions.
Right.
And then the other thing that comes to mind, tariffs right now are a hot topic.
Wait, what? Tariffs?
Yes, right.
What's that?
Right. Import-export documentation or information is available, online. It's public information. So if you are purchasing some raw material or something from another country, and you may now want to purchase it from another country.
Right.
Or you're curious what your competitors may be doing. That information is out there, and you can say, I can see, several people in our industry have changed from purchasing from country A to country B. Maybe we should think about that. And so, yes, there's plenty of ideas out there, but those are just couple things that immediately come to mind. Is you might not think about those things, but that information is there if you want to pursue it.
Yeah. Again, it's data. Look at it, analyze it, see how it can best be used for your business for improvement or any changes you might think you might want to make or need to make.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been great. Really appreciate your insight. What last thoughts do you have when we're talking about data-driven decisions in ISO 9001?
I think it's just important for companies to realize that this is something that's here to stay and is really a differentiator when it comes to competition or, the industry as a whole. You aren't an organization that is at least thinking about some of these things. There are plenty of other companies out there that are. And so I would encourage you humbly or nudge you subtly, hey, you should think about these kinds of things if you're not, because that's, I think, going to be your differentiator or the thing that's going to make a customer choose you over someone else.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. A lot of people look at details and important things and data when times get tough. Or, we're a little tight now. We're not getting what we need. How can we figure it out? Where really ISO has you do that proactively, consistently, and regularly.
Yes.
You're not just doing it when, oh, I want to get better, or oh, we're not making enough money and what's changed. You should be doing it proactively all the time.
Correct.
Well, I really do appreciate you being here.
Nice to meet you too. I appreciate it.
I want to thank everyone who's listened to our podcast today. We hope it's been informative for you. Now, if you're looking for more information about core business solutions, as we now are an LRQA company, and how we can help you with ISO certification, cybersecurity, or even customized training, please email us at info@thecoresolution.com. You can also visit our website at www.thecoresolution.com. And if you haven't already followed us on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube, be sure to do so. And that way you won't miss the next Quality Hub podcast when it's released next week. Have a great day, everyone.